Hi everyone, I'm Natalie's dad, Jim Ryan. I've known Joe for so long. First thing that comes to mind is him singing, got down on his knees and sang to Natalie at their wedding. I'll never forget that, it was wonderful. I remember thinking if there was 100 guys standing here, Joe's the one I had picked to marry her. He's just been a wonderful husband and dad. One thing I liked about him is his work ethic. He certainly wasn't lazy. He would get after anything there was, and he knew how to do everything. I often tell my wife Bobby that maybe I'll come back as a Joe guy when I'm your next husband again and be able to do everything. And I just want to say that it's been a pleasure knowing him, and if I'm right, I know where he's at. He's in heaven, and I'm going to come and join him pretty quick. Thanks.
I always used to say to Joe that he was my favorite son-in-law. And I just loved everything about him. He could do anything, like you say. He just really showed us how much he loved life at the end, and he would do anything for his family, and we're really going to miss him.
Hi, I'm Natalie, Joe's wife. I just wanted to share just a few memories. Just being in this band room is where we spent a lot of time. Joe spent most of his time in his band room. It's a very special place in our house that we always gathered around, and the grandkids would sing songs with Joe, and he always taught all of his instruments to all of the kids, and they would sing. And I think that's the thing that I miss the most now, is just not having music in our house. So that's one of the biggest memories. Another thing is just how much Joe wanted to teach. He just wanted to teach everybody how to learn his skill. If he knew how to play an instrument, he wanted to show you how to do it. Or if you asked him how to do something, he didn't want to just do it for you. He wanted to teach you so you could learn how to do it yourself, which I'm very grateful that he did, because there's a lot of things that I have been able to use lately, being on my own. So I'm just grateful for everything that he taught us, and miss him every single tired day. And that's it.
Hello everyone, my name is Joey and I am one of Joe's daughters. There will never be enough words to express how much of an impact my dad had on me. I admired his compassion and care for others, as well as his dedication when setting his mind to something. He always made sure to follow things through to the end, whether he was successful or not. I will always remember his dedication to everything he did, and I will always carry that with me. While I will always miss certain parts of my dad, I am continuing to notice the little pieces of himself that he left behind in all of us. I am reminded of his hard work and dedication when looking out at the castle he built and the improvements he has made to our house. He used to always say, "Do you know how I built that?" And while I would always answer with some kind of tool, his answer was always the same, and it was with these 2 hands. He taught me to appreciate and admire what can be created in life by just using your hands, and it is something I have always kept with me. I am reminded of his wide imagination when playing with my nieces and nephews. I am reminded of his passion and dedication to music when hearing him sing or any of the songs that he loved. And most of all, I am always reminded of the joy and love he brought to all of us. His strength and positivity while battling a life-changing illness showed me what strength truly means. He never gave up, even on the toughest days, and always looked on the bright side. I'm grateful that I was able to learn all that I did and make as many memories that we could in the time he was here, and I'm so grateful that he is finally cancer-free. One quote that stuck out to me while reflecting on my dad's life is, "If you're going to live, leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that can't be erased." My dad truly made a mark on the world through his life in many aspects. He taught so many about the beauty and importance of music. He showed us what strength and positivity looks like. He also physically made a mark on the world through his career. One of the many projects that my mom and I will never forget is Mercy's Oncology Center, or as he called it, 310 Hartnell. Driving by this facility reminds me of the true passion, love, and admiration my dad had for his career. I can confidently say he left a legacy on the world, and his legacy will continue.
So for my video, I don't know if anybody else would find any of the stories that I find funny. So I'll just keep them to myself. But mostly I find myself realizing that the lessons that he had taught me as a kid are now more practical as an adult, really, than they were as a kid. But I guess it's just like kind of foundation laying to where he taught me a ton of being responsible and taking pride in your work and just trying to be the best person that you can be. And a lot of that at the time was just kind of whatever. But as I get older, and now with my kids getting older, I find myself more and more kind of saying stuff and then being like, that's definitely something Joe would have said. And it's hard to think of a world where that kind of insight and that kind of like perspective on life isn't going to be readily available. And I would say that's probably the hardest part, is there was so much knowledge and insight still left to kind of like pick his brain on. And so now I will find myself kind of like trying to think more kind of like what would he do in a particular situation, or trip to Sacramento. It just seems like he was all over the last time I was there, like little spots and little places where I'm like, oh yeah, we used to go here, we used to do this. So it's just, his impact is so much deeper than what I realized as a kid or even as a young adult, and it's difficult to put into words just how much he had impacted my life and will impact my family's life and my children's life. And I'm happy that I had the time and the ability to learn some of those lessons and have them be a part of my life, even though I wish it was longer and I wish I could have gotten more. I find myself more appreciative of the things that I have and the time that I did have with them and the time that I will spend now with friends and family and everything else because of his influence. And I mostly just want to say I love you and I miss you, and we'll keep living the way that you know we should and that you would be proud of. I love you.
Doing a career interview with my stepdad. This is Joe Kaiser, and we're gonna ask him a few questions. So can you tell me about your career and why you chose it?
Well, my career is drywall work, and what it is taking houses that are being built or buildings, commercial buildings, and when they get framed and the roof's on and everything, the walls go up. And that's the drywall that gets done. And the drywall goes on. After it goes on, it gets all finished with joint compounds and textures. And it takes a lot of work to get the building looking like it has walls that are seamless, that have no seams. It's continuous, and there's no real obvious areas where it looks like the walls were put together. And a good drywall job, a lot of times a good drywall job is something that you won't see, it won't show up.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a bad drywall job, you'll notice it. And most people, they don't even know what drywall is. When you ask them, they tell you what you do for a living, they do drywall. Well, what is drywall? Well, when you go in a house or a building, you see the walls in the background. That's the drywall. And it's kind of like the back canvas for a painting. Everything that goes on the walls just sits there in the background, and it doesn't want to stick out at you. And it's kind of just there for everything else. And the reason I got into it was when I was, 12 or 13 years old. At that time, my older brothers were 15, 17 years older than I was, and they'd already been in drywall for a long time, and they had their own businesses, and they'd take me out on these jobs, and they'd give me jobs that were, where no one else would see it. It'd be under the staircase, above the ceiling, and they'd say, go in there, and they'd call it fire taping. I didn't know what fire taping was, but it's just on a firewall to prevent fires from coming through. And so I'd go in there, and they'd give me a big pan of mud and a roll of tape and a knife, and not show me how to do it. Just say, go in there and put this on the wall. And I'd go in there and just make a mess. I'd have mud all over my clothes. And they would laugh at me and sometimes make fun of me. But and they'd tell me to go get a tool, and I'd bring them the wrong one, and they'd say, oh, look at what he brought. Joey brought this tool, and I told him to get this one. But it was all fun, and I really kind of grew on me, and just getting to the job, and the different smells that the drywall would put off. Every time I'd be on a new job, I'd smell that fresh drywall. It always reminded me of the time back when my brothers would take me out taping and finishing drywall. And so I started doing it. I did that with them every summer as I got older, and I liked it. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that time, but I wanted to do something with my hands. And at one point I thought, oh, a carpenter, that job, people know what a carpenter is. They get all the credit, and you sell someone you're a carpenter, oh, you frame the houses. So I thought, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a carpenter. And so I did some work for different carpentry jobs. And every time I was doing carpentry work as a carpenter apprentice, the other carpenters would get laid off, and they'd keep me around because they needed drywall work done. And so I thought, well, this is pretty cool, because I knew how to do it, and I wasn't that great at it at that time. But I found out that there was a big need for drywallers that knew how to do it good, and everyone else was sitting at home, and I'd still be working. But I kept on pursuing the carpentry end of it, and finally I just said, you know what, drywall's inside after the roof's on. You don't have to deal with the rain. just one trade. Carpentry just has an umbrella of so many different things that you have to carry around in your truck to do it. And so I just, at one point in my life, it was probably about 23, I said, that's it. I'm going to do nothing but drywall. That's my specialty. And about then, my little brother died. And when he died, he was halfway finishing his house with drywall. And he died right in the middle of the process, so it was kind of weird. But when he died, I was about 23, and I just started my drywall going. And something hit me when he died. I just said to myself, I'm going to be the best drywaller. At the time, I was living in Sacramento County. And so I did too. I had the name of the best drywaller in Sacramento. People would say that. And that's how I really got into it.
Hey Harper, do you want to say anything to Papa?
I